by a show of hands. All right, now that we know that we're being recorded, just by a show of hands, how many of you worked last week over 40 hours a week? Can you raise your hand? Over 40 hours a week. Over 60 hours a week. Keep your hand up if you're, all right. So it seems like we have a group that is productive. And so we're interested in learning to be more productive and how to get more done during the time that we have. So at this point, what I'd like to do is just share my screen with you. And if you could give me a thumbs up to let me know that you could see the screen, I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, thumbs up. Okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you. I'm going to find a timer really quickly here on my screen. Whoops. Let me just go back. Oops. Instead of advancing, what I wanted to do is to put the timer on my screen. So bear with me for just 1 second so I could see and stay on track. There we go. All right, excellent. So, how to 10x your productivity? This is a picture I took last week in Zion National Park in Utah, just about 10 hours away from where I live. So you might be asking, we're talking about productivity. Why do you have a picture of a natural scenery here? And you could see the path, the trail that I took to go up to Angel's Landing, which is one of the most challenging trails in Zion National Park. And the reason why I have this picture here is because there's multiple paths to get to Angel's Landing. So there's multiple paths to productivity. There are many ways to improve your longevity, your productivity, your life, the quality of your experience. And I just want to share with you that this is my perspective based on the research that I've done and some studies that I have read. One of them being from Harvard Business Review. And my focus on productivity is not going to be about the Pomodoro effect or other types of techniques that you may have read in the past that comes with trying to improve your productivity. My focus today is how to manage your energy, because if you are able to focus on managing your productivity and improving the level at which you could operate your body, your mind, your spirit, your mental capacity, you'll be able to increase tenfold your productivity. And I am so excited to share my insights with you. All right, so here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to share my background story, and then I'd like to talk about the 4 holistic pillars for energy preservation and expansion. And then I'd like this to be interactive. And if you have a piece of paper, just a white piece of paper, it could be a scratched piece of paper, I'd like for you to take some notes and reflect on your life, on your day, and maybe note 1 or 2 things that you would like to do so that you can improve your productivity by the end of our workshop together. Because this is a workshop, right? Hopefully you'll be able to take some actions, and it could be on my presentation and it could not be. It may be something that I've said that stirred or triggered another thought. Write that down as well, because at the end, that is the gift that I'd like to give to you to help you improve and 10x your productivity. All right. So Michael was very kind in sharing the achievement that I made in the US working in corporate. But that's not how my life has always been. So I was born in Vietnam, even though I've lived in California or the US most of my life. I was born in South Vietnam, and I was a refugee in the 1970s. And the middle picture is a picture of a boat that looks similar to the boat that I was on when I escaped from Vietnam. And right now there's a lot of immigration issues that's going on in the world. And my heart goes out to those who are in Afghan and in Syria and in other countries, because I was one of those refugees who left my home country in search for freedom, in search for more opportunities. And when we were on that small boat, we were picked up by an American ship. And then in 1975, at the end of the year, I landed in Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, and that's where my journey began. And so growing up, I was very conflicted. Here I am, I'm Vietnamese, but yet I had to grow up in the American culture, which was very different, right? And so I felt like I had three strikes against me. First, I was a female. Secondly, I was raised in a culture that was very hierarchical. And earlier, when Michael asked the question, are leaders born? I completely agree. It is a part of our education, and we learn so much from our family and our parents. And I also believe that you could learn how to create the life that you want to live. And so being the girl, being from an Asian culture, which does not always promote communication for women, and being the youngest of 7 children, I felt like I had a lot of challenges to work through. So I had to work very hard. So I went to the University of California in Irvine, near where I live, and I had an opportunity to develop and grow in my leadership skills. And I ended up working for a company that you might be familiar with, Coca-Cola. It's where I spent most of my career. I also worked for a few other organizations. And I studied at the University of Sheffield, which is the picture on the left-hand side in England. So I have a chance to travel the world. I regret, though, not going to Turkey, but I had a chance to go to Europe because I've always wanted to go to Istanbul. And so I hope that in the future, when I have a chance to visit Turkey, I will call on you when I visit. But within my work at Coca-Cola, I was able to lead a organization of 30 people. We worked on major multinational projects. I worked with Australia, Korea, Taiwan, where I visited, down the picture below, and we were able to launch, commercialize major products. We implemented an import-export project as well. I supported the 3rd largest retailer in the world, Costco. You may have them or be familiar with that brand. And I was able to work on projects that saved the company multi-million dollars. And throughout my work, I was able to complete my MBA at Cal State University of Fullerton on a project where we won several awards and published in the newspaper and so on and so forth. So that is a little bit about my profession. But before I get into the productivity pillars, I'd like to share a few more pictures of my trip in Utah. And this is a view from the river of Angel's Landing. And there is a peace, a calmness when we're able to be in the environment and just experience our environment. And I highly recommend, if you have a chance to come visit America, go to Zion National Park. And this is Capitol Reef. And Capitol Reef is a very unique national park where there is 200 million years of geology in the history, or geologic history in the earth. And the reason why is about 70 million years ago, the Colorado Plateau lifted, exposing the 12 layers of rock that you see here. So why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because humans, we also have a lot of layers. We have a lot of experiences or background and emotions, and that has kept us holding our experiences and our potential back. So I'd like to share with you through this productivity presentation and help us to unpack and peel back the layers of onions that we have that prevents us from reaching our highest potential. So here's a quote from the Harvard Business Review, and it says, to effectively energize our workforce, or you, right, we need to shift the emphasis from, I'm having a tough time reading here, from getting more out of our people to investing more in them so that they are motivated and be able to bring more of themselves to work every day. So why is this important? Why do we need to invest in each other and in ourselves? There's a research study that was done by Wachovia Bank back in 2016, where they took 106 employees across 12 regional banks, and then they spent time and focused on 4 modules. We're going to go over those modules in just a few minutes here so that you'll know exactly which modules I'm talking about. And by the way, I talk a little bit more about this in my coaching session, in my learning labs, and I could go deeper if you'd like to learn more about that later on. But in this study, what they have focused on is the 3 big key performance indicators in their business: generating loan revenue and the deposit revenue. And what they did was, when they spent time every month on these employees, they noticed that there was a 13% points improvement year over year on their financial results, right? So, and this just happened in the first 3 months of the study. And then from a revenue standpoint, there was a 20% improvement in their year over year during that same time period, just by focusing on these 4 categories or 4 pillars. So what are they? You know what they are. This is not new. This is the foundation of our energy as human beings. In order for us to expand our productivity, if we focus more on our bodies, on our emotions, our mind, our spiritual health, we'll be able to expand our capacity to work and produce and to enjoy a healthier, happier life. So we're going to go through each one of these pillars in a little bit more depth, and we're going to talk about our body, our physicality, our physical state, emotions, our relationship state, how we interact with others, because it directly impacts our mind and our productivity, our mental state and our spiritual state. And all of that, it's a formula, right? If you handle these 4 areas, the end result is 10x productivity, if not more. And if one of them is missing, then you're not able to optimize your whole sense of self and your true potential. So let's start with the body. And I love this picture, and I start with this because I think it's the easiest thing that we could control, is our physicality, our ability to take care of ourselves. So when there was a study that was done, and I remember when I first started working for Coca-Cola, I was skipping my breakfast, and this is pretty standard for a lot of people who are working in corporate. You get so focused in your work that you skip breakfast, and then you end up getting hungry and you're agitated in the middle of the day. You don't have the energy to say thanks, to give gratitude to other people. And then, you're so focused on doing work and finishing your project that you end up not sleeping well. You eat junk food, you go to fast food. So how many people here know what I'm talking about? All right. So you've been there, and so have I, right? And so what are the easiest things for us to do in order to help ourselves and position our body so that we can be more productive? We create a morning ritual. So every morning I wake up at 6:30, I do my meditation, I exercise for 30 minutes, I drink a green juice so that I can replenish my body. Very simple things to do. And if you do it on a regular basis, you will see how much energy you could create for your body just by doing some very basic things every single morning. Or if you're busy in the morning, do it in the afternoon. Exercise in the afternoon for 30 minutes. And if 30 minutes too much, start with 10 minutes. Just doing some leg lifts. I'm having meetings and I'm standing and I'm doing leg lifts, or I'm squeezing in my stomach. Just simple things that you could do to move your body, because we're humans. Our body is made. We're made for movement. And when we sit on the computer for 8, 10, 20 hours, at a time, or we spend so much time working and not taking care of our body, we could feel the decrease in our energy level, and that doesn't help anybody. Also, our physiology, as I mentioned, we have this 90 or 120 minute cycle where our body moves from a very high energy state to a low energy state, right? So when you start feeling restless, tired, you're yawning, you're hungry, stop. Don't continue to work. Take a break so that you could renew your body. And research shows that because of our ultradian rhythms, if we take more breaks in between these cycles of 90 minutes to 120 minutes, our productivity will increase significantly. So take more intermittent breaks so that you could renew your energy, and then you could hit it again. Secondly, the second pillar is our emotions. Now, you all know that we're emotional human beings, right? They're the basis of our humanity is our emotions, but yet we spend very little time talking about our emotions. And that's why I love Toastmasters, because Toastmasters create a safe place for us to come to talk about our emotions and share, right? So when I'm not feeling good, my husband feels it, my kids feel it, right? Because we wear it on our body. Even if we don't talk about it, we affect the people we are around. And our emotions and our mental health is extremely important. Talking about emotions is not a weakness. There's no reason to be shameful about how we feel. If we're angry, if we're upset, we just need to learn how to manage our emotions. And there's books out there on emotional intelligence by Daniel Goleman, that I would recommend, to learn about our self-awareness, to learn about our social awareness, and learn about how we can manage relationships so that we could improve our productivity. There's also techniques in breathing that's extremely important to help us manage our emotions. And expressing gratitude as well is the key to managing our emotions. So I'm going to share a story. When I was younger, as I said, I'm the youngest of 7 children. My oldest brother, because he watches too many Bruce Lee movies Or, he thinks he's the man of the house. And my parents, came from Vietnam to America. They didn't speak the language. They did not know how to navigate in the American culture. So he feels like he's the man in charge. So he was very harsh. I would say he was a bully. And there were times when he was physical with me. If I didn't do something that he liked, it would be, a slap here, a punch there, right? And he felt like that was his job. And it really affected me emotionally. But I did not know until I started doing the work, the deep work to understand why I reacted so briskly with people at work, right? When I lost my patience, when I got angry so quickly. There was a reason, and I had to figure that out. And one of the things that I learned through my work and my meditation and Vipassana and over the years was I had to identify my unmet needs. And because of my childhood and what I went through, I felt like I had a need to gain approval from the higher up, from my father. I need to gain approval from my brother, from my boss. And because of that, I put myself down, I put my needs down so that I could gain approval from those that are higher up. And it caused a lot of stress. It really hurt me in some of the decisions that I made. And until I was able to find out the origin of my inability to meet my unmet need when I was a child, until I was able to name it and label it and call it what it is and look at it and turn it around and realize that, hey, I don't need that. I don't need that constant approval from a man or from my boss, or, I need to love myself first. Until I was able to detach from my origin story, from that need that I had, I wasn't able to liberate myself. And so in our lives, we have stories that we tell ourselves day in and day out that we don't realize until we stop and think about the stories that we tell ourselves. So I would encourage you to take the time to reflect, to journal, to meditate, to practice deep breathing. And one of the exercises that I love is when I meditate is to do the box breathing, where you hold your breath for 4, you balance your body, your mind, you exhale for 4, and you do that for at least 4 times. I did this before my presentation. You may not be able to see it, but I did it just so that I could recalibrate and recenter my body, my mind, my energy, so that I could be here and be present with you and give you everything that I've got. So one of the things that is a myth is people believe that they can multitask. The more you can multitask, the more you could get done, right? But that's not true. Distractions are costly because every single time you get distracted, it takes you 25% more time to finish the task. So when you're working on something for that 90 minutes to 120 minutes, turn off the notification on your phone, put it on silent, put your emails on silent, and avoid the distraction so that you could focus maniacally on your task. And then after that period of focus, take a break. How long is the break? It depends on you. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, but that depends on you. So as soon as you feel energized, you could go back and do another 60, 90, 120 minute session. But the more you could be more productive and produce results. Another thing that I do that I really love is, and I challenge you to do this to improve your productivity. For the next 30 days, as soon as you wake up for 60 minutes or 90 minutes, whatever time period you think is best for you, I want you to focus on one goal, just one thing, the most important thing in your day, the most important thing to advance your work, advance your project, advance your life, whatever that one thing is. For 30 days straight, 60 minutes every single time you wake up, focus on one thing. For me, it's writing. I want to finish a book. So every single morning I wake up, I do my routine, I drink my green juice, I exercise, and then I sit down for 60 minutes, 90 minutes. If I am having a good day, and I focus on writing. Everything else is turned off. My kids know that I'm busy. No distraction for that time period. If you do that for 30 days straight, or if you could do it 30 days straight and it's easy, go 40 days, go 50 days, and see how much more you could accomplish. So I'm going to ask you, how many people are willing to do that? 30 days, 60 minutes, one goal. If you're willing to do that, can I see your hand? All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'd love to hear what results from your commitment there. And the last pillar that I want to talk about is your spirit. And when I talk about spirit, a lot of people think it's religion. But for me, you could be spiritual without being religious, right? Because it's where you get your sense of purpose. It's your calling. It's your life. It's why you are here. It's why you're meant to be here. And the reason why I'm here, and I believe that I'm here for a specific purpose, is because, not only because Melton called me, but because I am meant to be here to connect with each and every single one of you. Maybe there's something that I am sharing with you today that will trigger another thought, that will trigger another action. And I hope that in our conversation today, that you will be able to tap into your calling, right? What's important to you? What really matters to you? Because what really matters to you, what's important to you, is going to carry through your work. And if you're in a job that you absolutely love, you don't call it work, right? It's your life. It's a part of who you are. You could focus on that and work for 10, 12, 14 hours a day without feeling tired, because your work is aligned to your purpose. It's aligned to your personality. It's aligned to your calling. And then it becomes play when your purpose is aligned to what it is that you do, your profession. So one of my favorite quotes here from Buddha is, the secret of health for both the mind and the body is to not mourn about the past or worry about the future or anticipate the troubles, but to live in the present moment. To be here right now at this moment, not thinking about the past or the future, or, what is what do I need to worry about, the bills and all that. Is to live in the present, because the present is what matters. So I have a story that I'd like to share. Back in 2016, I was on a business trip, and I was working for Coca-Cola at the time. I was running this multi-million-dollar project. There was a lot of pressure on the line. My team of 30 from everywhere in the US, nationwide, they were counting on me to lead this project. And I was nervous. Even though I didn't show it on the outside, I was really, really nervous. So I went to Dallas, Texas. I had the meeting. Everything went well. And then I decided that, oh, I'm going to be super ambitious. I want to do more for the company. I want to give the best impression and produce the best results. So what I did was that I flew down to Houston, Texas. I went to San Antonio to stretch the week out. And then the day before I was to fly home from Texas to California, I got into a car accident. And that car accident nearly ended my life. I remember when the car impacted the concrete barrier, because I was a passenger and the driver lost control of the car. It veered to the left and then veered to the right, and then it hit the concrete embankment. And for an instant, I had no idea what was going on. I could smell the burning oil, the fume that was, that was burning. And then I looked down at my feet and I could not move my legs. Even though I didn't realize that at the time, I had suffered from spinal cord injury, from C4, C5, C6, and C7. My spine was dislocated. I could have been a quadriplegic. It was just a millimeter away from not being here. And when the neurosurgeon saw me, I had surgery for 8 hours to repair my spine. And after the neurosurgeon saw me, he said, patients like you, it would take 3 months to stabilize and 3 years to fully recover. I looked at him and I said, what? 3 months? And keep in mind, Texas is a long ways away from California, right? It's a 2-hour flight and 2-hour time difference. And I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to be away from my family and my kids for that long. So every single day when I was in rehab, I worked. The physical therapist would say, oh, do 10 sit-ups. I would do 100. Do 20 leg lifts. I would do 200. They would give you these stretch bands. I would do it constantly. Every waking moment I was awake. I was exercising and stretching and moving my toes and moving every muscle that I could move in my body because I couldn't even move. I couldn't even walk. I had to learn how to walk again. So after working tirelessly for 2 weeks, I finally got the approval from the neurosurgeon. He gave me approval to fly home. I went home and continued the rehab. In 2 months, I went to Zion and I hiked 2 miles. In 3 months, I went back to work and finished my multi-million-dollar project and won some awards. And after 2 years, I decided to retire from Coke, left my job, and actually I'm not really retired. I just decided to transition into a new role and really pursue my passion. And my passion is to focus on education and to help young people, those in middle school and high school, communicate with confidence and to help them find their career path. So that's what I'm doing. After the 2 weeks in the hospital, I had a lot of time to introspect. I asked myself, what do I want to be remembered for? Because I was so close to not being here today. I realized that it wasn't working for Coke. That was not the legacy I wanted to leave for my children. That was not what I wanted to be remembered for. So what will you do today to create the life you want to live tomorrow? And how can you live more consciously and be in the present and use your talent, your gift to serve others? So here is my family. Here is one of the last days that we were at Zion. And here's my husband, my two daughters, the light of my life. We hiked over 100 miles over 2 weeks. And I'm going to end by just summarizing. In order to 10x our productivity, I think it's directly related to the choices we make every single day. How will you care for your body? How will you take care of yourself? How will you take care of your physical state so that you could be more present mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to serve yourself, to serve your family, your community, and others? Because once you are aligned, your mind, your body, your spirituality, and your emotions, I believe you can increase the longevity of your life and your productivity, not only tenfold, but potentially 100-fold. So with that, I would invite you to stay in touch. I'm on LinkedIn. I have 2 websites, Gisele T Nguyen and Life Ops Learning Lab, where I teach my classes to support the middle school and the high school students. And I also do some coaching with adults and professionals. And I'd love to hear from you. And at this time, I will invite any questions.
Thank you, Gisele. As I wrote before in the chat, please funnel your questions either to Gisele directly or via my chat box. And as long as we are waiting for some questions, I was impressed. And I thought you are originally from Vietnam because I saw the name and I was guessing it from the name. And I love Vietnamese food, by the way. I think it's really the best one ever in the world.
Oh,
Whenever I see somewhere at Vietnamese restaurant, I go there. And actually, I have something else in common. You talked about the Zion National Park. Actually, I was horse riding in the Bryce Canyon, which is very close to the Zion National Park. So it's I love the place too. It's a very, very nice place.
oh, yeah. I'm so glad you're so close. That was just a couple hours away from Zion.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I went to Zion as well, but I know better the Bryce Canyon.
Okay.
So when you want to talk about a little bit more when we get the question about your coaching. You mentioned you're doing also coaching. Can you tell us a bit? Whom are you coaching and yeah, how's it going? What is do you do it online or how do you do that?
Yes. So I coach professionals mainly because of my background. So folks who check my profile on LinkedIn know that I have experience working in corporate, and I coach on leadership, building businesses, and also on relationship management. And so most of my coaching clients are online because of COVID, and we find that it works out really well. We meet weekly, and I just work with my clients to understand what their goals are, and I understand how to work with them in order to achieve their goals. So I just support my clients. So I have a client in the Netherlands, and a lot of them are in the U.S. And so this is what I love to do, because it's about understanding the human nature, expanding human capacity, and supporting the growth of an individual human being. And so I hope that answers your question, Michael.
Great. And I got a very interesting question, actually. What is the most challenging situation to be a woman leader?
Oh, I love that question. So when I was starting out, when I first joined Coke, I was one woman in a team of 40 men. And I was the only Asian. There were two, there was another woman in an adjoining group, but she was Hispanic. I was the only Asian. And so at that time, I thought, gosh, it must be, because of the culture or the organization. And there is. But the difference or the transition point for me was my own understanding of how to navigate and deal with the culture of men who are not used to working with women, right? So I found that for me, the challenge is in how I process the situation. And instead of feeling like a victim, now I coach my clients to be empowered. You have an opportunity to work with these awesome men. You have an opportunity to set an example and pave the path for other women to come into the department. And so I think it's a mindset shift, Michael, to answer your question. And I think some women, it's easy for us to, because we're socialized, right? To be soft, to be mild, and to not speak, and to not be so assertive. My encouragement is when you know yourself and you know your strength and you know what your talent is, value what you offer and value what you bring to the table, because you bring a lot to the table, and take the credit that you deserve, and you will gain the respect. I hope that answers your question, Michael.
It was actually Kamsa's question, and thank you for the answer. And another question I got, how did you design your new success or fulfillment scale after your transition?
How did I design my success?
Yeah, your new success or fulfillment scale after your transition.
That's a great question. I knew that I had to leave the big corporate culture just because I knew that my time had to be focused on education, because that's where my passion was. So what did I do? I got out of Coke and I decided to volunteer. I volunteered in the PTA, the parent organization at my daughter's school. And then I took an exam. I thought, I'm going to try to be a teacher. So I took an exam and I became a substitute teacher. And then my friends would say, oh, Gisele, you're such a great teacher. Why don't you become a teacher? And I'm like, they don't pay enough. It's great work, but, I was used to this. And so I said, I got to create something new. So relationships. Through my volunteer work, I became the president of Inside the Outdoors, which is a nonprofit organization administered by the Orange County Department of Education. I started building relationships, and then I used my skills at Coke, and I did the same thing that I did at Coke. I built programs, I collaborated with people, I formed partnerships, and it grew from there. It's not that hard.
Great. Thank you, Gisele. So since we have no more questions, I think we can go to the next point. Actually, the next point would be, I have another question. Gisele, can you stay till the end, or can you stay longer, or will you?
Yes, I will stay to the end, absolutely.
Because we have no channel evaluator, and I would love to have you as the evaluator, because you are from another club, you have a lot of experience in Toastmasters. It would be great to have you evaluating our meeting.
Sure.
Would be possible? Great,
be happy.
Thank you. So actually we'll have 10 minutes break, but I would say since we are late, let's shorten it to 5 minutes if anybody has getting a coffee or something else.